back at it again. What's dropping now on you?
Hi.
Hellos.
Technical difficulties. Hold on.
Okay, we got to get his. We can hear him, but he can't hear us at the moment. But happy Wednesday to everybody. Good to have you all back. Welcome to All the Mess with Max and Jeff. Um, any help there going with you? Any hearing now? No, nothing. Now I can't hear you. Huh? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Unless you're like double muted or something. Okay, yeah, I can't hear you. But maybe you can hear me. Okay, no worries. One moment for you. Just gonna keep on just bitter battering. Ugh. Just watching myself some My Hero Academia today. It's a good way to spend a rainy Wednesday day off. Ugh. Anybody in comments saying any hellos while we're getting there? Nope, it's pretty dead at the moment. Mm. Man, Max's day's been just following things. Hey, yeah, I heard a whistle.
There we go.
Here we are.
So many things just happened at once. I was just like, what is
Yeah,
happening here?
I was like shelf crashings and everything's dropping.
Yeah.
Your office is falling apart, my friend.
You shut your mouth.
Oh no! Ugh.
Okay. Oof. Yeah, I went to go look for a book, and my whole shelf decided it wanted to come down. So
It wanted you to have all the books
it's like read all of these at once right now.
right now. Right now, they will help you.
They will help you. There'll be something.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had all of this voice mod stuff, which is the program I use for like the silly sound effects and stuff that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't want me to it didn't want me to use it right now.
No, it wasn't working together with it.
Yeah, and I had this really cool one planned for today's stuff. So oh well, it's gonna be fine. I'm just not ready. It's cool.
I barely make it through my day already.
Ugh. All right, fan is on.
Okay.
Shelf is down. Voice stuff down. But we're here.
We're not down.
We're not down. We are here. We are in fact live on Saturday night. Oh, sorry, wrong show.
Wrong show.
Oh man, it's just been crazy. So how has your week been from last Wednesday to today?
I think the last word you put there kind of is the best way to describe it. Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I did have fun last night.
Yeah,
That was
watching me fall on my ass.
Yeah. Keys surprisingly made it home without getting sick. So
Did she drink a lot?
Well, no, it's just from being on that merry-go-round and getting spun
she
around
was a
that
trooper.
much. Yeah,
she was a trooper on that. I would have puked.
Yeah. I did it for like 2 minutes, and I was like, yep. I had to take a sit. She did it for at least like 8-10 times longer than that, even.
Yeah, between her and Sophia, like I was like, I don't even know how they're doing this right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We had a lot of fun though. We had a lot of fun.
It was a good time out. It was nice to de-stress after the last week.
Ooh, it's been crazy. QA being sprung on us, but we did it. We got an outstanding.
We made it. We got through it.
Because we're awesome.
Pop, pop, pop.
Pop, pop, pop. So, you want to tell our viewers what in the hell we are talking about today?
Yeah. With all this unsolved mess, we're going to be discussing about unsolved murders and
Ooh.
what just kind of ones that have caught our interest throughout the years, ones that had been unsolved for quite some time that have recently been solved, and kind of ones that are always on the rise in the forensics and science behind it all.
Yeah,
Um,
one of my favorite things in the world is to listen to unsolved murders on podcasts. One I do listen to is Unsolved Murders. Another one by the same company that makes it is Solved Murders, which is actually a different spin on it, and I like it. So they give you all like the meat and potatoes, and then they go, "Oh, by the way, this is how the killer got caught," and you're like, "Oh!" So I really like
hmm,
that one. Um, from Tenderfoot TV, which I believe is Canadian based. I'm not sure. I
okay.
do believe that all great things come out of Canada. Um, but Up and Vanished was a great podcast that I listened to. Uh, there's so many that Tenderfoot TV has made that I've just absolutely loved. They covered the Atlanta child murders back in the 70s.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
covered the Zodiac Killer,
Um,
which is on our list today.
is the Atlanta child murders the premise of what was the second season of Mindhunter?
Actually, I think so. I can double check that
Yeah,
though.
I that is one like I want to think like that was their whole premise for season two of Mindhunter, dealt with the Atlanta child murders, where it was the guy who never got found. They thought they got close, but they couldn't pull any evidence with it, and it was like all. I think it was primarily boys in this one who were under the age of like 15
Yeah,
that were involved in this.
so they're pretty sure there is one person who has been sitting in jail for these murders.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure if I'm convinced that he's actually the killer. I think that he's done some dumb stuff, and he's not exactly innocent or a good guy. But I don't think he did those murders, to be honest with you. And that could be a whole nother episode that we do. Me picking apart the Atlanta child murders, considering I
Hmm.
grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yes, the Mindhunter season 2 is about the Atlanta child murders.
Okay, that was. I mean, there's only been two seasons so
Hmm.
far of Mindhunter, and well, I feel like the first season was a stronger one.
Yeah,
The second one felt like it had a more thought out storyline, so I got really into as far as like, hey, this is something that catches my interest. Like, I enjoy a show that does a good point A to point B, follow a storyline.
I mean, I would definitely recommend the Up and Vanished seasons to you, but every time I recommend a podcast, you're like, yeah, yeah, and then you never do it.
And then I never do.
So
That's true. That's on me. That's on me. I'm not much of a, even though we do, yes, run a vlogcast. I'm not much of a typical podcast person. I'm usually more of a give me a YouTube series and I'll get into that.
that would be cool if like they were YouTube compatible, where it's not just on like Apple Music or Spotify or Pearcast or something like that.
Right. Like I think for me the big thing is like yes, I know like with with listening to a podcast it's oh you can be cooking or you could be outside doing work and be able to just listen to it while you're doing that. Um I'm kind of a visual person. I need to be able to see what's being, there instead of just hearing a voice to it.
I got
And
you.
and also I get easily distracted.
Hmm.
So it's one of those. There's people who can focus on two things at the same time really easily. So listen to a podcast and something else. I don't have that ability. That's like whenever I watch YouTube, I'm treating it like a normal show. It's not something in the background. I'm legitimately watching it.
See, I like to listen to my podcast like when I'm at work when you're not there,
Right.
or when I'm driving somewhere, because I have this habit of I'm not a music person,
Mm.
so it's very rare that I can drive and just listen to music. It just depends on my mood for that. So 9 times out of 10, if I'm in my truck and I'm driving, I'm calling someone to have an actual conversation that's mind stimulating and whatever.
Right. That's usually whenever I'm listening to NPR.
Yeah,
Instead of podcast, I'll listen to an NPR show and just kind of catch the because on something like that, I'll catch the 20 minutes that they're talking about something, having an interview with somebody, and if I want to check up on that one later, I can just Google the thing.
right. I can understand that, but if I'm not talking to someone, I'm listening to my podcast. So,
That's a way to do it.
but the idea, and this is gonna sound so creepy, and people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, Max is a serial killer." The idea of murder has intrigued me, not in the fact that I want to commit murder, but I want to know why in a psychological sense. What are you?
What drives somebody to that?
Yeah, did you see Piper messing up all my pillows back
All the
here?
pillows.
Messing all the pillows, little girl. Yeah. What drives somebody? What makes somebody want to kill? What is their purpose?
Right.
Like everyone's like, oh, the husband did it. It's always the husband because his wife was blowing someone else, or like, whatever. They always say it's the husband, but
Right.
it's not always a crime of passion.
Right. Right. I mean, from shows and from just different cases where you read about them, though, serial killers who have been caught, when they discuss what's the reasoning behind it, sometimes it for a lot of them we get almost this sense of ego.
Yep.
It's I'm doing this because who's going to stop me.
To be honest with you, though, the most intriguing ones to me, and also the dumbest ones to me, are the ones that are like, "Oh, I'm doing this because I was possessed by the devil."
Right. Right. The false insanity plea, the false possession plea, the somebody told me to do this, or the easiest cop out is not necessarily a possession thing. It's I'm doing this to catch the attention of somebody else.
Yeah. So, which brings me to why I wanted to do this episode today.
Okay.
Um, because if anyone knows me, I want to get my master's in psychology. I started working towards it slightly, but that's my main goal. Um, because of these things. Also, just a side note here, Jacob has joined our Discord page. If you want to know more about our Discord page here, I'm going to send you the link in the comments here.
Okay.
So if you ever want to jump on there, just write us a note, talk to us during the show or after the show. There you go. It's in our comments. You can definitely join in on that server. Um, so I like putting puzzles together, people puzzles, if you will. Um, to be honest, I was the first case that ever really intrigued me back when I was young, because it actually directly affected my family, was the Summer of Sam murders. Have you heard of them?
I know Summer of Sam. I've seen the movie. I know briefly about the whole dog talking to the guy on who to kill was his cop out.
The dog named
Uh,
Sam. Uh huh.
yep, yep.
So, you have to forgive me. I'm having a bad allergy day, but my whole family actually grew up in those neighborhoods around the times that those murders were happening.
So kind of a scary. These things
Yep.
are happening around us, and we're not sure the right thing to do.
Yep, like I grew up listening to my mother and my grandmother and my aunts tell stories about how they were frightened to actually go outside at night, and like one of the murders literally happened like 2 blocks from where they lived or where their boyfriend was or whatever.
Right.
So that intrigued me at a young age. So David Berkowitz was the killer, in Some of Sam, or in the movie Summer of Sam,
Mm-hmm.
where he was telling everyone that the dog next door named Sam was actually the devil and
Right.
was telling him to commit these heinous crimes.
Right. Right.
Um, the funny story about that is, and I just realized this, is that is not the first time this has happened.
That somebody used an animal as a devil.
Yeah, so have you ever seen the movie The Town Afraid of Sundown?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of it?
Um, in passing, more of a people talking about movies they enjoy, and that one's been on a few people's list when I've talked with them. But I didn't think to go any further than, hey, what is The Town Afraid of Sundown?
So I a little bit of a backstory. Jamie's sister actually introduced this movie to me because there's been two of them. They redid it, I believe, in 1976, and then they made a newer one. God, I want to say like 2014, something like that, 13 or
Okay,
14,
and,
one of
and
those.
again, that might have been where I heard it was when they made the remake, and people were talking about liking the original.
Yeah. So the killer's mo was exactly that of David Berkowitz. To this day, this is still classified as an unsolved murder,
Oh,
or
okay,
or unsolved murders because it was a serial killer.
okay.
Um, so this guy would put a mask over his face, and he would find couples making out in their cars or whatever, parking, necking, whatever terminology you want to use,
Hmm.
and he would shoot them.
That feels slightly like Zodiac Killer,
Yeah, and it's also just like David Berkowitz's mo.
right?
So it intrigues me in a sense to see Zodiac Killer, the town afraid. I'm not going to keep referring to it as the town that was afraid of sundown because it actually happened in Texarkana.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's even more interesting that I haven't seen the movie or know much about that one because I do have family that are from the Texarkana region.
Yeah. So they actually show it I believe it's every fall in the town square.
Okay, okay,
Which I'm like, all right, a little bit morbid, but
kind of, but I mean, and I think like towns that are able to instead of use that as a fear and say like this is part of our history, embrace it. Bravo to them for that
yeah,
because I feel like that's the better response than let's shove this ugly part of our town history away and treat it like it never happened.
yeah,
Because sometimes
but
when that happens, when something bigger comes around, it's almost a hey, like so. Let's say a killer came 2 years from now, right?
yeah,
Throughout that same thing, started doing the same thing, and they hadn't been celebrating they would use that as the because you guys are trying to turn your heads away from what's actually happening. This is why I'm doing it. I'm going to open you up to the reality of it, and you can't just keep hiding away from it. You can't keep steering away from your history.
yep. I'm 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 with you on that, but it's so crazy because if you look at the timeline, so the Texarkana, the Phantom Murders, as it was titled originally, because the killer is known as the Phantom,
Phantom. Okay.
happened March of 1946
Okay.
and lasted for 8 months.
All right.
So then you have another unsolved murder of the same caliber, the Zodiac Killer,
Mm-hmm.
that happened in 1968.
And there is talk of like his first killings being going to a place where people were making out, sneaking up on him, wearing a bag or some kind of covering because one of the people who did survive one of those shootings said the person that shot had a covering over their head,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was at those same kind of places and it was gunshots at a close range.
Yeah, I believe Ted Bundy actually did something similar as well in a couple of his killings.
Some of his early ones before he decided he wanted to be more known for it
Right.
was considered that he wanted to see what he more or less I think in Bundy's confession tapes he had said he had done something similar to that, i.e. putting a bag over to his head, going to places where couples were trying to be more not no, not out and about in a
Mm-hmm.
public way, and using that as a, hey, if I kill both of these people, it's not a place where a lot of police are patrolling. It's out in some backwooded area. We're in a very quiet area. I can step in, step out. Nobody's going to notice me.
Right. But then the Zodiac killers, like I said, the Zodiac killer, 1968. Um, the actual killings, the 7 killings that he did, was less than a year
In time.
in time. The case dragged on for 10 years because apparently, supposedly,
Mm-hmm.
the killer were taunting the police and the newspapers with, the letters and so
Right.
forth.
Right.
A
The
cereal
the
box in a
cipher,
Lowe's parking lot.
the ciphers, the
Yep.
different cryptic messages. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you have, the Son of Sam, which was 1976.
And again, only a few months.
But it was almost like every 10 years.
Yeah.
So those things like that intrigues me. Which is why I wanted to kind of shed some light in the serial killer murder esque like little world, because it also plays back into movies. I mean, heinous crimes influence media so big today.
Right. Right. Um,
Uh,
I mean, while this has become a solved one, for a long time it was an unsolved one, and it's one that happened in our area with the BTK murders.
yeah.
Like, if the DNA evidence hadn't been found with all that kind of stuff, and the computers things of how you and I have discussed with it,
Hmm.
um, if that hadn't have been found out, that might have been one that would have lived as a constant unsolved murder.
Yeah. I mean, it was for almost 40
Oh,
years.
I believe almost 40 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, I'm glad that people kept DNA samples and everything.
Right, right.
Because from 1946 or even 1976, they're not going to keep as much of that stuff. I mean, hell, fingerprints were a new thing to them.
Yeah. Well, keeping a classified thing to match up with was more of a new thing.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's just that's kind of crazy. And the BTK thing, like, so I grew up between Florida and Georgia, and we have our share of crazies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a very significant killer that was jailed not too far from me, growing up in Florida, and well, when Ted Bundy was there.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna be like, are you talking about Bundy, which
yeah,
is who I
yeah.
thought you
So
were.
yeah. I also believe that if I'm not mistaken, Charles Manson was actually in a penitentiary in Florida for not too long.
Um, I thought that Manson had always been in one of the California maximum security ones, but he might have been in a Florida one for a point.
I want to say I heard something about him being there for a little bit. Of course, like his main thing was definitely, California, where he committed
Right,
all of his murders.
right.
But I want to say something about he had to be moved.
For one reason or another.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point of today, because he was a solved murder.
Right,
So,
right.
or coercion of murder. I don't know. Um,
That's where we get into that legal gray area of what role does a person actually have when it comes to a murder.
yeah. So, getting back to the town that dreaded sundown is actually the correct title.
Okay.
Um, so it started right after World War II. It was in Texarkana. He killed his first attempted murder of the couple that was on Lover's Lane. Did not succeed. He almost killed them, but didn't. They actually survived.
Okay.
Uh, and it was said that those two people like constantly lived in fear for like years and years and years, being so
Of
traumatic.
retaliation.
Yeah, like they survived.
Right.
He wore a white bag over his head with the eyes and mouth cut out,
Hmm.
and he used a 32 to kill the people that he did kill. So he actually upgraded at some point through his killing spree in the 8 months that it took, that he was actually breaking into houses.
Mm.
And it caused like mass hysteria in the town where they ran out of firearms and bullets because everyone went crazy because the Texas Ranger told them to be prepared. To where there was actually a case of a neighbor shot his neighbor because he got scared.
Over a false belief. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Which is one of those where, we talk about, this unsolved case, this unsolved murder, to where it's, lasted for 8 months, where you almost wonder in that time if a few of those murders weren't not necessarily copycat, but more of a, hey, now I could possibly get away with doing something like this because they're not looking at me, they're looking for all these other things, so I can get away with doing something like this.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of the Axeman, actually, from New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Another unsolved murder or
Right.
string of murders.
String of, yes.
Yeah, the guy claimed every time he wrote into the newspaper, into the police, he claimed that he was an otherworldly entity, and that's why he would never be caught. But there are proven cases of people being like, "Oh, it was the Axeman," and really, it was just this woman found her husband cheating and decided to kill him and say that he was killed by the axe murderer.
Right. Hey, give me one second, because talking about people claiming other murders with unsolved murders. So give me 1 second, because there's see if I can get to it.
Don't break your shelf.
I have this one on serial killers, and how you were talking about that, it was reminding me of one of these. I believe it's from this book, where that might be it. Let me get to it. About more or less a person who had um, who, after he was caught, claimed, "Oh yeah, like if any kind of murder was, that they had unsolved ones on, they didn't have the evidence for such and such, that he just started claiming murders, because the more that he could put under his belt and say, yep, that was me, I confess to that, the greater that his name would be known."
Oh, that
And
was
I think it was Kemper.
I don't want to say it was Kemper, or maybe you and I are thinking of two different cases. The case I'm thinking of is the one in it was in Illinois, I believe, and he was the prostitute killer.
Okay, so no, the one I was thinking of, it is Kemper, who, with the co-ed murders,
Okay.
there, after he had been arrested, and it doesn't mention this in this book, but I just want to make sure I was thinking the right guy. That there has been talk of, like, oh yeah, he, uh, if they came to him with, hey, we have a murder that would fit more or less into his timeline or his type of mo, he would just claim credit to it without there being any kind of, and it's one of those, hey, does a person get away with that because of it?
Well, yeah, basically, if you did
Right.
something and I claim credit for it, you're
Right.
still out there that to kill people.
Right. Well, that's just kind of like the just recent found body that was in the, whenever they drained the Mead Lake in Vegas, and there was the dead body that was found in one of those oil bins, and there's this talk of, well, who killed this person?
Yeah.
And now it's one of those talks where it's like, oh, this probably happened back late 40s, early 50s, mafia running Vegas type things. Whereas,
Right.
hey, here was some low level guy who just, out of Chicago, that came to Vegas and got whacked, and they just put his body in the river. Well, not in the lake. And now, after it's been drained, they finally find it.
Yeah. I mean, that happens at lakes a lot, though.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately. But at the same
it's
time, it's one of
crazy.
those where that's still an unsolved one. And now there's the talk of, well, if we found this one, how many do you think's actually potentially down there?
Yeah.
there could be a lot of missing peoples, or oh yeah, one time my grandfather went down somewhere and he never came back, and they think, oh, he it was just a, a dirtbag grandfather, when I mean he still could have been. No offense to anybody's grandparents,
How
but
dare you?
but he might have went to Vegas and got killed, or went somewhere else and got killed, ended up in a lake somewhere, and nobody knows about it, and it's, oh, he's just a runaway.
Yeah.
And then you find out 40 years later, no, he was killed and that happened to him.
Could you imagine what was it, BTK's niece, grandchild, one of those that tied him to the murders?
Right.
Like being like, "What? You did what?" Hold on.
Oh,
Um I mean, the most famous unsolved murder though happened a long time ago. You
are
know
we
which one I'm
going?
talking?
Are we talking about Jack the Ripper killings?
Oh, of course,
Or
they're unsolved
we say unsolved,
to a
though.
point, to an extent.
They,
There's no
they,
proof.
there's been a few, and I remember reading something. It might have been either mid last year in 2021, to where they got some DNA stuff where they were able to analyze it due to some new genetics testing, and they believe that they now had the person. There's nothing super solid. Like, it's the same way, like in this book here, Patricia Cornwall's Portrait of a Killer, which is case closed, where she says, based on this evidence, and it's been so long since I read this, I can't remember who she puts it on. It
Oh, I
might
could
have,
tell you. I could tell you because it was off of a fingerprint.
well, like hers, like again, it's genetics, it's fingerprinting, it's a few other picture evidences of crime scenes that has been further investigated, writings that were attributed to Jack the Ripper that she was able to
She
make her.
spent $4 million on that investigation
Mm-hmm.
to point the finger at painter Walter Sickert.
Oh, so you just looked up that quick one to find out about it?
No, it's literally sitting on my information that I've been researching today,
Oh, okay, okay.
which is why I started with Jack the Ripper.
And worked from it, the most famous one. Yep.
Yep. But there have been so many other people who have been accused of this crime, and there is no real proof.
Right. I think the one from last year, that they said it was some Norwegian immigrant
Yeah,
who I believe they were saying was a fishmonger who was
I don't see
from
that being true.
that was from Norway, and I was just like, okay, this seems like too many, like, that seems almost too poorly done for them not to have been found.
Think about it like this.
Mm-hmm.
There were, in like just like every unsolved murder, there's always one person that gets away, right?
Right, right. That's why it's still not solved.
Okay, and this was in Whitechapel.
Yep.
What is the accent in Whitechapel?
Primarily Cockney, but not 100%.
And for us that don't speak British lingo, that means traditional English with their little accent flair.
Right, right. Cockney is very unique to the area of Whitechapel. It's pretty. It's one of those where it's mocked often
They sound like they
because
have marbles in their mouth.
right, because it's one of those that it's so unique. But I mean that's the truth about most English accents. You can
Yep.
go you can go 2 blocks from Whitechapel and be up on. Um,
Thanks of the history lesson of talking British.
right, right, and it's a completely different kind of accent.
Anyway, my point is,
It would be noticed about somebody who would be sticking out like a sore thumb as far as somebody speaking it.
yeah. So you're
Right,
telling me this Norwegian,
right. Well, and what they're claiming is he could have gotten away with something like that because he had a cleft palate, so he sounded unique either way.
yeah, but have you ever talked to anyone from Norway? I have.
I can't say I have.
I have. I have actually friends who live in Norway.
All right.
Their accent is nowhere near anything remotely British.
I could get that. I could get that.
And especially back in the day,
True.
no, no way.
Right. Right. You could almost pin at that time. You could almost uh um like pinpoint almost the street that somebody lived on based on what kind of accent or a certain phrasing that they might use pretty often. You're
Or
like, oh
how
yeah,
many
you're
marbles
dead,
they had in their mouth.
or yes, yes, or the lack of marbles in their mouth.
Do you know who is the number one most famous person accused of being Jack the Ripper?
Um, I've also is it the one from that was with New York? I can't even think of his name off the top of my head.
Lewis Carroll.
The author Lewis Carroll.
Yes.
That would be Alice in Wonderland. For those
Yep.
of you who don't know, Lewis Carroll's the guy who wrote Alice in Wonderland and also has a great take on logic puzzles. He actually wrote some amazing logic puzzles. If you're
Yeah.
into that kind of thing.
But he, everyone who knew him said he was a weird guy.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Have you
he.
read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland?
Oh, like, and know what the weird thing about that was? It was written for a 12-year-old girl who he had a infatuation with. Wrote it
Definitely a weird
for
guy.
her.
Yeah.
Like, you're an adult man writing this for, yeah. He is one who at that time while he was writing was known for being a very much of an opioid addict. Well, poppies and opium dens he was known to frequent.
Yep. But I just found
So
that interesting.
I mean, it would be a very interesting one to tie him to it, but you would feel like there'd be so much on him that it wouldn't be hard to put that onto him, if you know what I mean.
Well, think about it this way. He wasn't. I mean, because even the Queen Victoria's grandson was accused of being the Ripper.
Right. There was a lot of people who were accused.
Right. There's actors, there was physicians, there was, the authors like the fishmonger.
As you put a painter.
Yeah. And that's actually from the book you brought up from Patricia
Right.
Cornwell.
Again, that's
She
the thing is, I was like, I think she kind of, throughout the book, she's kind of boiling it down more of um, oh, it couldn't be this person because of X, Y, Z. It can't be this person because of X, Y, Z.
mhm.
And finally, oh, it's her for her thing. It's most likely this person because of X, Y, Z. But at the same time, those can all be explained in the same way why the others weren't.
Right, but Carol probably wasn't as famously known then
At
as
that
he is
time,
now.
that
Right.
that's true. That's true.
But had he, and this is me just, trying to be crazy about it, right? Like trying to put
Mm-hmm.
together a possibility. Let's say he had like this much fame.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from watching movies, it's not hard to get a prostitute's attention. You
Right.
just kind of wave money at them, right?
Right.
But if you had a little bit of fame,
Mm-hmm.
it would be that much easier.
To pay somebody off.
No, to be stowed away that quickly and to not realize what was happening before it happened.
That I mean, but we do have those we have those who survived the attacks.
Right, but if they just happened to be hey Dina, how you doing? If he happened to just be the one or that one that didn't really know who he was.
Right, right. Like that's the thing is, yes, we all know who Stephen King is, but if you were to see him on the street, could you point out? Honestly, could you point out? Could most people point out?
No.
Yes, you me. But do you think most people could point out and be like, "Oh, look, that's Stephen King"?
No. No.
And he's one of the most famous, if not the most famous of our era, horror writers.
Yeah.
And you would probably say 7 out of 10 people would not know who that was if they saw him on the street.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, you take somebody like Carol, who wasn't quite as who was nowhere in that same ballpark. Yes, he's gained fame afterwards, but nowhere in that same ballpark
Right.
of King is today. and say, "Oh yeah," people would know who that is.
Yeah, they just kind of wrote him off as a weird guy.
Right. He writes books, and that's how he makes his living.
Yeah. Next on the list of our famous ones that we don't have to dive too much into because it's been
Years.
everywhere, the Black Dahlia.
Mm.
One of Hollywood's most gruesome unsolved murder.
Yes. Yes. Before
Um,
before we get into Black Dahlia, which is a great one that has, still left so many people. I'm trying to think. We were talking Jack the Ripper, and who was the one in New York? Who I no, the Boston Strangler.
yeah,
That's why I was, because there is that whole talk of what if Jack the Ripper, after doing what he did, escaped after getting too much heat onto him, made it to America, and that's who became the Boston Strangler, because we don't know who that is either.
yeah. I mean, I believe. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we're gonna go on a crazy trip right now. So I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, yes.
I'm also a paranormal investigator. So people claiming to be possessed by the devil, I take a little bit more heartily than most people
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that it is possible.
Right.
Uh, has it happened? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But do I think it's possible? Yes. So I have this strange conspiracy theory, just like I was talking at the beginning of the show, about it happens every 10 years. It has almost the
Mm-hmm.
same MO, that it escalates. What if that's not actually the person or something? And maybe it was something they were possessed by, and that's why it
Possessed
happened
by?
every 10 years.
Mm.
I mean, you could literally follow that all the way back to Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it could happen. I don't know. Maybe. That's just me. You guys can go ahead and blow up our Facebook and our Discord and everything else telling me how crazy I am. It's fine. But Black Dahlia in
The Black Dahlia, right?
1947.
Yes, yes.
Gruesome, gruesome, gruesome. Body parts everywhere, just out in the open, broad daylight. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. If you've watched the movie, you probably know Josh Hartnett's in it. Um, but there is a book by Steve, I think it's Hodel, maybe, 2003, called Black Dahlia Avenger, where he convicts his own father, who is an LA doctor,
Of
into
being
being
the
the killer.
murderer.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's interesting. I would have to think that because of the facts of the murder, that it couldn't have been just a normal construction worker Joe Smo that committed these murders or
Right,
this
right.
murder.
So somebody just off the street breaking in, nothing like that.
Yep. I mean, Elizabeth Short was decapitated, dismembered, and drained of blood.
That takes time. That takes time, and that takes knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, the only people that I could think of that would have that experience is either A, a doctor, or B, a butcher.
Right. And if it's a doctor, it'd have to be a doctor that has some kind of surgeon background,
Yep. Some sort of surgical background, which, I mean, I believe that Hodel's dad was a plastic surgeon, if I'm not.
which would play heavily into how things have been discussed at that crime scene of
Yeah,
looking.
the cuts were very surgical.
Right. Cuts were surgical, like you said, the way that the blood had drained from it, it would have to be somebody who knew what they were doing. So, like you said, yeah, a butcher. Which, I mean, I'm I'm not putting it past a butcher to be like that, but at the same time, I wouldn't see an MO. I could see a doctor who is, especially something like a plastic surgeon, who just kind of has had it up to here with the whole thing and is just over his profession and says, I can use this in a dark manner.
Yeah,
We've seen this played out before in books and movie scripts and stuff like that. So it's not. I'm not saying it's too far fetched to say that that's something that could actually happen in person.
yeah. Um, and then that ties right into the Zodiac killings as well. 1968, we already talked about. One of my favorite mysteries. It's not a murder, but it's the strange case of DB Cooper.
Oh, that
You heard
is
about
a.
it?
I know the DB Cooper story with the hijacking the plane and jumping out of it. Yeah,
Yeah. He was never found.
right.
Never found. Now, I have actually a couple years ago, I was on another podcast. It's called Cryptic Heartland,
Okay.
with um, local paranormal team, Everyday Legacy Paranormal, and Road Trip Paranormal, where we actually dissected this DB Cooper case. Um, I just find it so interesting because he literally got onto the plane
Mm-hmm.
with a suitcase full of money, like $200,000, which was a lot back in '71.
Right.
Um, and just jumped out. Just boom, he's gone. And the only thing they found about 5 grand in the along the Columbia River. That's the only thing they ever found.
Um, did you guys been discussing it? Because we don't know who the actual person was. We have
No.
this name of DB Cooper, but we don't know who actually DB Cooper was.
I
Um,
believe that DB Cooper was actually a type of alias, but the DB actually gives away of who it actually was.
okay.
And we could do a whole episode on that as well, and
Right.
which we might do because it's very interesting.
Right. One of the big stories that I want to think the Travel Channel or Discovery, one of the two, when they were
Yep.
discussing it, they went with the whole he was actually a pilot for that airplane company. It's why he knew. It's why he could get onto there by using a fake name. It's why he could talk to the stewardesses and stuff like that and say, "Hey, this is what's happening," with them instead of being completely terrified because it would be like one of those, "Hey, we know who this is."
Another theory is he was actually military
I could, so more or less somebody who was probably a jumper. So
or a
kind of
pilot in the military.
right, right,
But I mean, he disappeared. He got away scot free. There's nothing. There's no sort of evidence or fingerprints or DNA or nothing that can link this guy back. Now there has been like people over the years that've been like, "That's my granddad."
right. There's always the people that are like, "Oh yeah, I totally know who that guy was,"
Yep.
and then they'll
Yep.
say somebody, and it's like based on what logic? Oh, because he says such and such.
Right. Um. One of the original Hollywood murders was of William. Whoa, why can't I remember his name? William Damon Turner.
Okay,
He was a very famous director back in the day, who had a checkered past. He actually that wasn't his real name. Um, there was speculation that he might actually be gay, and he was shot to death in his apartment, where his driver the next morning found him. His supposed lover at the time was questioned. A young actress who absolutely was infatuated with him was also a suspect. The mother of that actress was actually the suspect, who for a long time I actually thought was the murderer because she sounds cray cray.
okay, okay.
Um, and it turns out, and this has never been like court record or anything like that, but on this woman's deathbed, another
Okay.
actress that happened to be in his movies as well. The theory is that he was blacklisting her,
Mm.
and she killed him. And on her deathbed, in a confession to her neighbor, she was having a heart attack, and she said that they had to get the priest because she had to make a confession before she died, that she didn't want to go to hell for the terrible things that she has done. And she confessed to shooting and killing him. And she was like 76 years old. So for 50 years or so, she got away with it.
And but have there been any proof evidence since then that can confirm that she was the one who did that? Because at this point we're dealing with here not to quote something that's been said throughout a trial that we're all tired of. That sounds like hearsay upon hearsay upon hearsay.
Objection, hearsay. Okay, but so
I mean, yes,
let's think about
it would
this.
be it would be ridiculous. Like if she did say this, right?
Yeah.
If this actress did say this, yes, it would be crazy for her to admit something 50 years later about that.
Right.
I can agree with that. It's just again, without there being any besides a priest and this neighbor, and the priest isn't going to say nothing, and the neighbor just wants a sensational story.
But here's the kicker to that. So the priest never showed up,
Okay.
or not in time anyway. Um, she was in her 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Her neighbor was a young Italian man, maybe early 20s.
So wouldn't know anything from that. Okay.
Never even would have heard the name.
Right. Right.
And then his grandmother, who he lived with, started putting pieces together and was like, well, there was something on the TV one night and we were watching TV and it happened to bring up the murder. And the woman went kind of crazy, like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing this. I thought it was long dead and gone. Turn the TV off. So she got very agitated of the mention of the murder.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Sometimes it just bees like that.
Right. Right.
More recently, since we're talking about old Hollywood and everything like that, the John Benet Ramsey story.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. Um. I mean, I hate to say her parents, but her parents.
But there's no proof, so it's still classified as
Right.
an unsolved murder.
Right. And that's the worst part on something like that is whenever everything in your gut tells you it has to be this,
Yep.
but you just don't have the evidence for it.
Well, that's like the O.J. Simpson case.
Right. Right. It's everything tells you 100%. Yep. Those parents totally did that to her.
Yep. But there's just no
And
proof, so there's no
there's no
closure.
proof and there's no body.
I just don't understand why they would. Like, what could ever drive you to harm your child?
Right.
Especially since she was your cash cow.
Well, we view it as yes, your cash cow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though there are those, as Beth just posted there, as I just said, that will always say they're the ones who did it. How much more has their name slash her name stayed in the spotlight, the zeitgeist, them getting money for interviews about it, more so than they probably would have with whatever fame she could have potentially, because this is potential worth versus actual worth. She, we don't know. She was so young. And it is very tragic, very sad. But we don't know, like how you said, she's the cash cow on that one. We don't know, 10 years down the road if she would have been, you
The
know,
next Meryl Streep.
right. Well, just, a next model, that would have brought them in a whole bunch of money. We don't know if she would have, been a great pageant winner again and again. The next Miss America played into that, or even into the acting field. We don't know.
Right.
So they take her when she's at that height. And if they are the ones to do it, which I believe that they are, and say, oh, somebody did this, it's so tragic. And then they can feed off of that for the next 20 plus years.
Um, the interesting thing I found out about that whole story, like I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I think that the parents had something to do with it. Um, but one of the main suspects for a little bit of time was actually her 9-year-old brother,
Right. Right.
jealous of the fame that she was getting.
That again, he was being overlooked by his own parents, and it was all about her, and who cares about him, and a jealousy kind of thing at that age.
The one thing I can say though, that if it was the parents, um, there's never really a case where you just kill one child.
Mm-hmm.
So why wasn't her 9-year-old brother also harmed? I don't know.
Also, yeah.
But it just goes back to like OJ Simpson, who everyone in America is convinced till to this day that he
Right.
did it.
Right.
And then recent news has come out that it could very well actually be OJ's son.
That committed the murder.
Yep. And OJ found out about it, and that's why everything went crazy and became a media circus like it was. It's
Yeah.
just, and we'll never know on things like that, until definitely a cover up. 100% right, Mom. 100% right. But it's just things like that. When you go to like more recent murders, it's not. How can I say this? Um, it's near impossible to get away with murders now compared to even 50 years ago,
Hmm.
because everything leaves traces, and forensics is at such a high point. Um,
We say that, and that's easy to say. It is harder. It's definitely harder. But the
well,
truth is,
comparative,
right, comparatively. But we still have unsolved murders that happen every single day in this country,
yeah,
in this
but
world.
there's always something like the if you look at how long it takes people now to catch the murderer or to
Right.
catch the criminal,
Hmm.
it's a fraction of what it used to take because of forensics. You
Right.
would have to be damn near a genius or very, very careful
Hmm.
in order to get away with shit nowadays.
True.
And with profiling and everything else, like even if there's no evidence, it just seems like they find you.
Well, that and it's again how high profile it is.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
I hate to make this towards the end of the show a racial kind of thing, but we very much see it where in poorer, less white neighborhoods where these kind of things happen, most of those criminals aren't caught, or
Okay.
it's harder for them to get caught because there's not as much effort or evidence or forensics that can be put into those kind of places.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I don't think I have a comment on that.
And that's fine. And I wasn't trying to make it a racial or a political or anything like that. I'm just
Right. No,
saying
no, I understand.
it's still. I agree with you that yes, it is so much harder for so many of these cases that we've just discussed about. It would be much harder for them to get away with it in today's for with what today's forensics, with what today's everything being very much under a scope. There's so much stuff on social medias and just so much stuff being put out there as far as ways to. It's harder to cover up who a person is these days.
Yeah, but the way to cover up who a person is these days or what they've done is
Yep.
all about money as well.
Right.
All about money. It's crazy. It's definitely crazy. Um, but forensics are such an interesting thing. Like even like you were saying about BTK going back in 40 years later, being like, "Oh, found you. Sorry, we
Right.
were late to the party."
Right. And we get cold cases like that where people have been in jail for the last 20 years who have been wrongly convicted based on somebody's poor confession because an officer or some group there had said, "Hey, if you just say it's such and such, we'll get you off on such like we'll get you out of this crime or we'll pay you this just to say that you saw these kind of things." A person gets arrested, is locked up for 20 years. Forensics finally catches up. New things that they can do finally catch up. The science catches up and
Well,
says,
that's
"Hey,
like
we have
Netflix
these new ways."
making a murderer.
Yes, yes.
The Avery case,
Hmm.
where he was literally wrongfully accused for a murder.
Right, and was probably put away based on somebody's confession.
Right. And then he gets out, and now there's this brand new murder that he may or may not have done.
Right,
That's an
and
interesting case I
and
still
the thing
follow.
is he got out of the first murder based on new forensic evidence that came out that showed that it wasn't him.
Yep. Yep. That series, if any of you have actually watched that series Making a Murderer on Netflix,
On Netflix, yeah.
it's very interesting. Just to see like the confessional tapes, to see what they look like now, what they're doing now, if their story has changed. Um, just the whole cycle. The evidence that they think they have, or they don't have, or they could have, or they might have had. Um, those are what really gets me into those shows.
Mm-hmm.
The actual facts behind it. It's not like dramatization and all of that hoopla. You know what I mean?
Right, right. It's a here's what's actually it's what it is documentary based, so that's what's good. I mean, yes, we all seen this documentaries that just make their own stuff up to fit into their box that they're wanting their documentary to be in.
Yeah,
And we've seen those botched really badly. But no, when a documentary does it right, it's just presenting the truth, whether it's the truth you initially started with or the truth that actually comes out in the end, is presenting what the actual truth is.
right. hundred
And
percent.
and I feel like that with how to make is it how yeah how to make a killer or how to make a murderer. I want to think it's how to make a killer. The
Making
Netflix
a
one,
making a
making
murderer.
a murderer. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Well, I really enjoyed tonight's episode.
me too. Before we go, I'm going to, since we've been discussing about unsolved true crimes, I am going to plug a friend of mine really quickly who has published now. I believe he is working on another book. He's already published two editions, two volumes, more or less, of it. It deals with different unsolved crimes and him doing some research into it. It is my friend Brian Oliver. We went to college together. Now that's not his. He uses kind of a ghost name, if you want to use it that way, a different writing name. So the book is Unsolved True Crime: uh, 10 frightening cases of murder, mystery, murder, and mayhem. The ones you've never heard of, by D.R. Werner, Werner.
What was his name on there? His pen name?
Um, Dr. So D dot R dot, then the last name Werner.
Or I might have to get that.
Um, I have yet to read them, but from the reviews that I've read of his, well, people who have reviewed it, they've really enjoyed it. A lot of them probably deal with a few of the cases that we talked about today. Probably a few of them that you like that you might have never even heard of, which would be kind of crazy. But there's always that possibility of just a small town one that you might have not heard of that he's done some research on and kind of. I'm not. I don't believe he ever tries to pinpoint a hey, here's who probably did it type of viewpoint, but more of a here's the facts that they currently have on trying to find who did it.
Yeah, they have both volume 1 and volume 2 on Amazon.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always happy to, plug a friend, somebody who, I went to school with and see like they're doing, you know, something different, something new that I would have. Knowing the guy, I wouldn't imagine him being into these kind of things or publishing. He's in college. He's very much musician, band kind of minded. So seeing him kind of go in that route, it's cool to see.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. I have to look into those. I mean, with my, the serial killer and, um, crazy murder story books and everything like that, which I
Right?
was trying to get off my shelf before I knocked it off the wall.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
But no, no. Today's been a fun one.
Yeah, it definitely
Always
has.
a great talk.
Yeah, I want to tell everyone once again, if you go to the beginning of the comments on this video, you can find a link to our Discord page where you can get at us and talk with us through the show, share your stories or your thoughts on what we're talking about that day. If you just want to send weird gifts like Jacob does, that's fine too. Also, follow us on Facebook, YouTube. We will have exclusive content coming to our Patreon here
Mhm.
shortly. And yeah, all of those links can be found on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
No,
It,
it's not peanut butter. It's not. It's gifts. It's
it,
not
it,
gifs.
it, it's gifts.
It's gifts. Don't fight me. I will come downstairs and drop kick you. I will do it. It's not peanut butter, which has been your peanut butter has been recalled, sir.
Hey, don't recall my peanut butter.
Oh, you didn't hear? Like, no, seriously, like,
Oh yeah, but I have heard there are. I think it dealt with the same thing with why some of the baby formula got recalled recently. Dealt with the whole recalling of peanut butters as well.
yeah, like we had to get rid of all of our peanut butter at the hotel.
Hmm.
There's just like
Um,
stacks of peanut butter now.
well, I recommend sunflower butter. It's a pretty good alternate to peanut butter,
Ooh,
and
almond butter. Almond butter's delicious.
well, and also it's nut free since it's made from sunflower seed. So if you have a nut allergy but are still enjoying the creaminess of peanut or want the creaminess of peanut butter, I recommend sunflower butter.
You know, one day we're gonna get sponsored
Yeah.
by all of these things that we talk about that people already think we're sponsored by.
Right, right.
Hopefully, peanut butter comes back soon though, because I do enjoy a good PB and J.
Hmm.
But I also do enjoy almond butter. I really do. I used to put it in my shakes every morning.
I really enjoy taking any kind of nut spread. So cashew butter, almond butter, even peanut butter, yes, for sure. Adding some honey to it and just eating that as is, mixing up nut
Hey,
butter
Lena,
with honey and then just enjoying that.
you know what we're gonna have to do now that I just saw Lena's name?
Hmm.
We're gonna have to have Lena on the show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Lena has a very special gift that I enjoy watching. Not only her doing my readings, but her doing other people's readings. Absolutely love it. Um, was a total skeptic when it came to anything, tarot card, medium esque,
Hmm.
anything like that. But I thoroughly love and enjoy Lena, and we're gonna have to have her on the show.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Oh, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna make her read you, and it's gonna be hilarious for me.
It's gonna be hilarious for you. All right. Not to ever knock anybody on that. I very much like you. I lean more on the skeptic side. Just it's similar with like the paranormal kind of thing. I don't say anybody who's had that experience. I'm like, oh, that person, don't deal with them. They have that. But just for myself, I've never had those experiences or really believe or follow that kind of stuff.
So, like I said, I'm very much the same way. But there are things that Lena has said to me that I have never spoken out loud.
Mm,
That I'm like, how the hell? Okay. Um, and Lena's also a skeptic too. She'll be the
right,
first one to be like, I don't care if you believe me. This is what I'm hearing, and I'm just telling you. But a
right,
funny
right.
story on our other podcast, Darkness Tavern, which we haven't done in quite some time because of COVID and work related stuff, and blah blah blah. We have Lena on, pretty regular, and Jamie. I love my wife.
Hmm.
She's like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Not gonna happen. Nope. It's and this is before she met Lena. So we're sitting there for Darkness Tavern, and Jamie's like, "Ooh, I got her." She goes, "Lena, I've lost my remote. Where is it?" Thinking that she was being a smartass, right?
Hmm.
If I'm not damned, we went home and found that remote exactly where Lena said it was. And I'm not saying she's 100% accurate all of the time because
Right,
everything's up for
right.
interpretation. However, I would trust about 99% of what comes out of Lena's mouth because she is that I almost want to say comforting,
Okay.
where it doesn't feel like she's blowing smoke up your ass because that's not her game.
Right, and that is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Well, like how she started there with saying she's a skeptic too. I think that's a good place to start because it's one of those where every single person who claims that they have these kind of abilities, it's one of those things that's hard to trust. Right, right, and if I'm going to just show that,
Yep.
yeah, and I appreciate that mindset. That's what I would like.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to have her on the show and get to all these wonderful people that watch us get to meet Lena, because she's absolutely amazing, and we'll definitely plug her outfit and everything. I don't want to go too far into it now because I want everyone to come back and find out. So with that, I think I'm about to go hit up the New Jersey Mikes in Derby because I love a good sandwich.
I'm going to finish season 2 of My Hero Academia.
On the anime kick with your girlfriend.
Hey, it's a better, like, that show is one that I thought I would never get into. It just felt too mainstream, and I've really started to get into it. Be like, I like this character, and I don't like this one, and I like the direction of this show. So I'm enjoying it so far.
All right, well, we'll have to talk about that next time too. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Discord. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll have a Snapchat. I don't know. We don't know things. Lena knows things. We don't know things.
I've tried to make my own peanut butter. I've tried to make my own peanut butter before. It was a hard fail.
Oh my God! Now I have a great idea, Jeff.
What is that for the Patreon content?
Exclusive Patreon coming out. Jeff and I are going to try to make our own peanut butter. He's going to try to make his. I'll try to make mine, and then we have to eat it.
I'd be down.
We're going to try this.
Okay.
Definitely subscribe to our Patreon channel. It's about $5 a month for the first level tier.
First tier.
Sure. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's been great, and we will see you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Say bye, Jeff.
Bye, Jeff.